The opinions and recommendations expressed by Dan are his own and do not necessarily represent the opinions of this station or any of the show's sponsors.
866-300-9298, 866-300-9298. You're listening to American Family Radio Network Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. It's great to be here. 866-300-9298. If you want, let me slow down. 866-300-9298. If you want to join the program, if you've got a financial question, we'd love to talk to you. We're going to get right back to the phones. But the Dow is up 94 right now. The S&P is up 8. And that's, I'm sure, making a lot of people happy, as there were jitters running through the Wall Street at the opening of the year with all those negative days. But the headline is the trade deficit for November. So that's the headline. I don't know if it's a headline or an excuse, but it's nevertheless, that's the headline. So we'll wait and see. But that's where we are right now. J.P. Morgan, I was talking about him early, just settled this morning the Bernie Madoff charges for $1.7 billion. Just to give you the idea, you remember this whole London Whale deal, this bad investment JP Morgan made that kind of slipped through the cracks that nobody caught? Well, so far that is known to the public. I suggest it's more than this. That's $8 billion in fines, just in fines, not to mention the losses. So that's probably $20-30 billion. I mean, think about this. Any other company their stock would have tanked by now, and there'd be panic beginning to set in. And they actually believe that if something goes wrong in the banking sector, this being the government, they actually believe that because of their policy that we will no longer have a too big to fail, and we will unwind any bank that has done something similar to what happened in 2008, is a joke. It's a joke. They couldn't unwind, the Treasury Department couldn't unwind J.P. Morgan if their life depended on it. They would have no choice but to bail it out again. It's ludicrous that they even have the policy when you're looking at these banks. If they wanted to do something that was productive, that could have helped the government stay out of these bailout situations again, when we should have another catastrophe, then they would have done something to reduce the size of these banks. Now, remember, J.P. Morgan got so big because of the government. That's why they got so big, because the government put a gun to their head. That's not an exaggeration other than the gun part, but the threat isn't. And said, oh, you will buy Bear Stearns. You will buy Bear Stearns, and this is the price, which was basically a giveaway price. Oh, and you will absorb Washington Mutual. I mean, the government dictated to them what they were going to do, which obviously created more size, more assets, more liabilities as well to the firm. And J.P. Morgan's in the driver's seat, make no mistake about it. But anyway, they're now settling the Madoff charges of $1.7 billion. Man. Anyway, 866-300-9298. Let me go to B. B's calling us from North Carolina. Hey, B.
Good morning, Dan.
Good morning.
I listen to you all day long, every day. You're not on all day, but I listen to Christian radio.
Thank you.
And I have been trying to do some things that you told me to do.
Good.
Now, I have 2 IRAs. I think they're traditional.
Okay.
I have them at 2 different banks, and I guess they total over $150,000.
Okay.
Should I put them in a trust account?
You can.
I have a beneficiary on them, but I don't have them in a trust account.
B, you cannot put IRAs in a trust. It's not.
You can?
You cannot. Nope. Boy, if you could, trust business would go through the roof. You can't, but so now you can, change the IRA to, by putting it into a Roth, or changing it over by drawing it out, but then you'd have to pay all the tax. But you can't put IRAs in trust. An IRA is income, basically. It is one of the ways you can look at an IRA. I mean, it's not an accurate definition of an IRA, but I'm just to kind of explain it. It's income that you received, but you deferred. In other words, it's income that you could have taken, but you decided not to take it. And that income is sitting in this account called an IRA account. And even when it grows in value, you don't have to pay tax on it because you've decided not to take it. So all of the IRA is income. So you can't really put income in. You can put savings, you can put investments that you've made from the income, but this isn't considered an investment because it's income that you haven't really taken yet. I don't know if I confused it or made sense of it, but that's why you really can't put it into a trust. So the only thing you can do is withdraw it, but then you got to pay the tax on it.
Well, see, my husband draws over $1,000 a month of Social Security, and I draw nearly $1,000. So that, and then a little bit of interest on some money markets and savings accounts, and so that we'd have to pay a lot of tax. So I can't do that.
Would you, B? Do you have heirs that are going to receive?
Yes, I have children that will need to have one that needs it now. Needs some. I do send him money. I sent him $500 Christmas, and I just wrote a check today, mailed another check out today because he's a civil engineer and he lives in Virginia and he doesn't have work in bad weather.
B, here's the thing though, I want you to just be cautious of. You don't want to, you don't want the Lord to call both of you home when you're both gone. You don't want that money to go to your children. I mean, it's going to have to go to your children, but it's not the best way to get the money to them through inheritance, because even though they inherit it, they still have to pay your income tax on it. It can't be avoided. It becomes an inherited IRA, and the taxes have to be paid on it. The IRS is going to get their tax out of this money. Your tax, not your children's tax. They're going to get taxed too when they receive it. So it's much better for you. And I know, it's hard. You don't want to write that check for the tax now, but you would be doing them a favor by withdrawing more than your minimum required distributions. Let's say your minimum required distributions, $10,000. You would be better drawing $20,000 out, pay the income tax on it now at your current tax rate, and then move it over into a savings account. You'd be better doing that than leaving this just grow in there and sit in there to someday get to your children. You'd actually be saving them taxes and preserving more of it for your children by starting a system by which you're withdrawing that money out now. Does that make sense, B?
Did, in 2013, I did draw $10,000, $5,000 out of each one.
Good.
Because I am past 71 and a half.
Well, keep doing that because that's real important. And if you can increase that a little bit, that's fine. It's okay if if it goes from one spouse to the other. You just don't want it to go to your children.
Then I have to make sure it don't make $20,000 Social Security taxable again because I did that one year. Yeah.
Well, and I
had over $40,000 in income, and I had to pay over $5,000 more.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing you have to balance. So when you talk to your accountant, run it right up to the limit to where it doesn't make your Social Security taxable. But at the same time, it's still less expensive to pay a little tax on your Social Security and get that money out of your estate, or out of, your estate, the IRA money out of your estate, and moved over into a savings account.
Security would kick in.
Yep. Yeah.
There is a certain amount. I think you can have like $30,000 or $32,000.
Yeah, that's right. There's a certain amount of money you can earn. There's a certain amount of income you can have before and then your Social Security begins to be taxable prorated up to the next threshold. So find out what that is. I used to know it off the top of my head. I don't. I'm looking for it right now as I talk.
I found out one year when I had to pay on it.
I know it kind of clobbers you when you find out. You don't realize, but I would look at it very carefully and try to get as much money out as you can. Thank you, B. I appreciate your calling, and hope that helps you a little bit. Let me go to John in Nebraska. Hey, John.
Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Good. I had some money going into a SEP because I'm a farmer, self-employed. So what do you think of that stock, energy stock, EOG? Some of that, and then Enbridge.
I think they're both companies, good companies. They're not companies that I follow, but never that I track. But EOG probably, in my opinion, being the better of the two. This is probably a good time to go into that company. It's down for the year. It's a very strong company. It's a large cap. It's a very strong company, and I think it might be a good time to put it in there. I think it's going to do well.
Like when some stocks are down, is that a time to buy in some stocks that had a kind of not that good a year? Is that a time to buy in?
Absolutely.
When they're down?
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, I would look at that. And that's a great company to buy into. So
right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then that maybe PAA.
PAA would be another good one. Yep.
Okay. Thanks a lot there, Dan.
Okay, you're welcome. Thanks. I appreciate the call, John. 866-300-9298, 866-300-9298. Let's see if we can get Pat in here from Pennsylvania. Hey, Pat.
Hey, yes. I'll try to make it quick because
Okay.
It's kind of a little bit long. But I am retired. I'm a widow. I am looking for, and I'm living off a 401k very comfortably now, but it won't last forever. I have 2 properties, okay, and I want to find a financial advisor that might know something about real estate and emotions. This is what I'm thinking. I'm kind of isolated, okay, and I'd like to be around people. I was wondering, do I look out and seek out first of all, do I sell one property or do I sell both?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and if I get the right prices, I'd be over $1 million, okay?
Yeah.
Which means that, it would be quite affordable.
Right.
Okay. Do I do an over 55 or do I do, you've heard of CCRCs, the Continuing Care Retirement Community?
Yes.
I've lived in my property in Pennsylvania for 40-some years. So, would 2 moves or 1 move? My kids are emotionally attached to either property,
Mm-hmm.
half of them for the vacation property and the other half for the country home.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking I have to live my best life. Maybe
Yeah.
the best thing to do is to sell both.
Yeah, I would say this to you first, Pat. Before you sell them both in the same year, I think from what you've told me, you ought to sell them both. But remember, they're not your primary residence, so there's going to be capital gains tax that you're going to have to pay, and it could be significant. It could be. I don't know how long you've had these properties, but if you live, and I suspect that you live near me, and so I'm going to suspect that the vacation property is down at the Jersey Shore. Maybe is that right?
No, the one at the shore is not primary, and
Okay.
that was hit by Sandy and
Yeah.
kind of rebuilt.
I would be careful of the capital gains. That's all I would say to you. I would worry about the capital gains, so you might not want to sell them all at once. I like the idea. I think you ought to sell them. I think you ought to get into a retirement community. They're emotionally attached to it. I understand that from my adult children. But look, hey, it's only a property. It's meaningless. It really doesn't mean anything, but I get where you're coming from. I'll talk a little bit more about it when we get back. I got to go to this break, and then we'll get back and I'll finish up with it. 866-300-9298. We'll be right back after the news.